Hey, what's up guys? Welcome back to my channel. I hope you guys is having a great day and hope you enjoy my video. And this what if is about Izuku becoming a villain or vigilante. So let's go in this video. Chapter 1: The Road to Our Paths. Midoriya's POV. I was 5 years old when it started, when my short-lived happiness started. I was in the playground with Kaken and two of his friends. They had all recently gained their quirks and Kaken's quirk was incredibly powerful. He could create explosions on his palms. We were best friends, but when his quirk came he changed. He started acting like he was the king of the world, bullying me whenever he got the chance. He started bullying others too, and that's when I had enough of him. I was a quirkless kid, but I could still stand up to him. I walked in front of a kid who was laying on the ground after being pushed by Kaken. I took a fighting stance and prepared to fight. I knew that I didn't stand a chance, but I still had to stand. To be like him, to be like All Might. This however didn't get me far. They all beat me with their quirks until I was on the ground. The boy who I tried to protect just ran away, leaving me there. I began to think that nobody would ever care for me, believe in me, and just laid there waiting for something to happen, but knew nothing would. That was until she showed up. Hey, are you okay? A girl with short purple hair and earphone jacks coming from her ears. Or why you talking to me? I asked, confused. Yeah, I noticed that you always hung out with them, but they always bully you. Why do you stay with them? She asked. Why is she being so nice to me? They were my only friends, I said with a hint of sadness. So what are you going to do now? She asked as I sat up. They are my only friends. I will just go back to them. They'll just hit you again. You know that, right? She asked with worry. I don't have anyone else to go to, I said whilst looking down. What if I be your friend? She suggested. Why would you want to be friends with me? I'm just a quirkless nobody, I said whilst I started to cry. What does being quirkless have to do with it? I want to be your friend. She extended her arm out to me, and I grabbed it, allowing her to help me up. I am Izuku Midoriya, I said quietly. Nice to meet you. I'm Kyoka. From that day on I never hung around with Kaken or his friends again. I spent every day with Kyoka. We became best friends in no time, which wasn't that difficult since we were each other's only friend. I always felt that Kyoka didn't get any other friends because she was friends with me, but whenever I brought it up she said that she would rather be friends with me alone than have 100 friends which weren't me. She was always so kind to me, and her parents were too. They treated me as though I was family, to the point where I started to call them auntie and uncle. Kyoka also met my mom and she called her auntie like I did with her parents. We spent all of our time together doing everything with each other. We never kept secrets from each other. She knew that I wanted to be a hero like All Might, and she said that she also wanted to become a hero, so we worked together to achieve that goal. She knew that I was quirkless, but she still believed in me. She believed that I could be a hero. She was the only person to believe in me. I always hoped that one day I could meet All Might so that he could tell me what I always wanted to hear. That I could be a hero. After 9 years of meeting Kyoka, that day finally happened. That day started just as terrible as always with Kaken. Me and Kyoka met up every day at a station near the school. It was about halfway between our houses, so it was the perfect place to meet. Once we met up we went to school together, trying to avoid as many people as possible, but as always Kaken shows up just to torment us. What the hell are you two nerds doing? Kaken grunted at us. We're going to school, Bakubich, Kyoka exclaimed. She was always braver than me, and would defend me whenever he tried anything. Chi, just stay out of my way. You're both pathetic, he said before leaving. Well, he seems to be in a good mood this morning, I joked, causing Kyoka to giggle slightly. We continued our way to the classroom, and sat down at the back. We listened to everything the teacher taught us, but I already knew all of it, and Kyoka was lazy, so usually had me teach her all of the stuff after school. Although our teacher's voice is incredibly boring, so I couldn't blame her. He decided to torment us though whenever he could, as I was quirkless, and she was my friend. He was talking about high schools we were going to, and he mentioned that me and Kyoka were going to apply to UA. This of course angered Kaken, and he knew it, so let everything happen. He set off explosions on both of our desks, causing us both to fall down onto the ground. You seriously think you can get into UA without a quirk, stupid Deku? And your quirk is pathetic. You'll never get into UA. Just give up, Kaken screamed at us. Tears started to form in my eyes, as it was my dream and I would never get used to him telling me to give up, even though I heard it every day. Kyoka on the other hand just sighed and ignored him. She was used to his bullshit and didn't deal with it anymore. At the end of the day, me and Kyoka were last in class and I was packing away whilst she sat on her desk waiting for me, but Kaken decided to come back. He grabbed my hero analysis book and proceeded to blow it up and throw it out of the window. Come on, Bakubich. Do you really need to do things like this every day? Kyoka asked. Shut up, Years. He's a quirkless loser. Someone needs to teach him that this isn't how the world works, Kaken yelled, causing Kyoka to back off. I endured his verbal abuse until he left, and then I left with Kyoka a little while later. Just ignore him, Izu. He's a dick, Kyoka told me. Tears were streaming down my face as I thought about everything Kaken had ever said to me. He even told me to take a swan side off the roof of a building. Yeah, I know. It's just not easy. Yeah, I understand. We walked past a fountain where my notebook was. I picked it up and tried to shake off the water before throwing it in my bag. Kyoka noticed that I was annoyed with him but didn't say anything. Instead, she just patted my back and walked with me home. On our way home, we went underneath a tunnel and that was where our lives would change forever. So, what you want to do today? Kyoka asked me. Dunno, do you have anything you want to do? I asked. Nothing really. Wanna just wander? Kyoka was interrupted when a villain made of sludge appeared from the sewers and engulfed me. As it was trying to take over my body, it hit Kyoka into the wall. I could see blood coming from her head and I started to panic. No, this can't be happening. I don't want to die. Kyo can't die. I haven't even told her how I feel about her. Then out of nowhere, All Might showed up from the sewers and blew away the villain with one punch. I fell to the ground barely conscious and scrambled my way to Kyoka. The number one hero was standing right there, but the only thing that went through my mind was checking on Kyoka. A little while later, Kyoka regained consciousness, and I just wrapped her in a hug whilst crying. I'm so glad you're okay, I said as she hugged me back. Yeah, I'm glad you're okay too. Wait, is that All Might? She asked. For a second I had forgotten that he was there and I frantically looked around towards him. Well, if you both are okay, then I shall be going. All Might then walked around and started to leave. Wait please. There's something I really need to ask you, I begged. I can't. I have too much work to do. Please, it's just one question, Kyoka said, trying to help me. She always knew that if I had ever met All Might I would ask this very question. Very well then. Ask away. Is it possible to become a hero even if I don't have a quirk? I desperately asked. Without a quirk? I'm afraid that it is impossible. I looked at him with a face of pure shock as tears started to form in my eyes. Kyoka had a similar face on her face as she wrapped her arms around me from the side to comfort me. He suddenly just jumped away from us as I stood there with tears dripping down my face. I looked down at the ground and just started walking away. Where are you going, Izu? Kyoka asked me. I'm not in the mood to hang out anymore, I said as I just continued to walk away. Izuku. About an hour later I entered my home with a tear-stained face and a frown on my face. My mom was concerned when I entered, but I ignored her and went straight to my room. I looked around at all the All Might merch I had and my anger grew. So-called hero. Why? Why did you destroy all of my dreams? I then walked over to all of my posters of him and ripped them off of my wall. I then grabbed all of my other merch and threw it around my room before laying down on my bed and crying for the rest of the day. My mom tried to talk to me and get me out of my room, but I just stayed in my room ignoring everything. It wasn't until the next day that something actually happened. I was laying on my bed as I heard a familiar voice from the other side of the door. Oi, Izuku. Open up now, Kyoka demanded, to which I just groaned in response. Dude. Open up before I shatter your door with my quirk. I reluctantly got up and opened my door to show Kyoka my tear-stained face. Izu, are you okay? What do you think? I said with emotionless eyes. Izu, it'll be okay, she said before hugging me. I was desperate to return the hug and let out all of my emotions, but I couldn't. Izu, let's go out somewhere. We can take your mind off of it. That isn't possible, Kyo, I replied. She then looked past me to see my room in a mess. She walked past me and looked around my room to see all of my All Might merch destroyed. To be honest, I don't blame you for this, Izu. I would have done the same. He was totally out of line. I know what you can do though. Still apply to UA and prove him wrong, Kyoka suggested. Alright, I'll do that, I said with no emotion. So, want to go train like we planned over at the beach? She asked. Yeah, sure. I'll meet you there at 1 p.m. I need to clear my mind first, I said. Sure. I'll meet you there, she said with a bright smile before giving me another hug. I'll help you clean this up as well afterwards. Thank you, I responded. It was only 10 a.m., so I had time to get ready, but I was still unsure about what I was to do. I spent the day getting myself ready for the training by having a shower, getting changed into some comfortable clothes for training, and then going out to get some air. It was 12:30 and I was about 20 minutes away from the beach, so I knew that I had time. I went up to the rooftop of a building that Kyoka and I frequented. We would always go to this rooftop whenever Kaken would be over the top to clear our heads. I sat at the top of our spot just staring down at the ground for a while as thoughts clouded my mind. Without a quirk, I'm afraid that it is impossible. I'm sorry, Izuku. I wish things were different. If you want a quirk that badly, there might actually be a way. Take a swan dive off the roof of a building and pray that you're born with a quirk in your next life. I stood up on the edge of the roof and stared down at the ground. It wasn't the tallest building, but I presumed that it would be high enough. It was on the outskirts of the city, so it wasn't likely for someone to find my body for a while if I jumped. I looked at my phone to see two missed calls from Kyoka as it was 1:30 p.m., and she was probably wondering where I was. I'm sorry, Kyo. I have too. I love you. I leant forward and fell off the roof and closed my eyes waiting for the impact. Chapter to Kyoka's guilt. Jirou's POV. After seeing Izuku, I walked home and got myself ready. I was excited about starting our training to get into UA. We would finally be heroes together and prove All Might wrong, so Izuku can beat his own hero who is greater than him. I arrived at the beach a couple of minutes early, so sat on a nearby bench and waited. After about 10 minutes he wasn't here, so I decided to call him, but he didn't answer. He probably just got into some traffic. He'll be here in a minute. I called again at 1:25 p.m., but still no answer. I called again and again and again for the next hour. He probably saw a hero and is caught up making notes on them. I started to get worried, not knowing where he could be. Then it was 3 p.m. He just got caught up at home and there was an accident blocking the road. That's why he isn't here. Then it was 5 p.m. He had to cancel and his phone is dead, that's it, right? Tears started streaming down my face as it approached 7 p.m. He probably fell asleep whilst H's phone was charging so hasn't called yet. I was starting to break as the sun set and it was approaching midnight. I refused to go home or answer any phone calls besides Izuku's just in case he showed up. Wouldn't leave me alone like this, so as something must have happened, alright? Please be okay, Izu. I can't lose my best friend. I was exhausted. I had stayed at the beach staring at my phone waiting for something from Izuku until 7 a.m. I decided to head home as my battery was almost dead and I didn't want to miss his calls. Tears had been streaming down my face all night and hadn't stopped. I kept telling myself that something came up. Something that was too important so that he couldn't make it. I made it back to my home and walked in with the tears still streaming down my face. Kyoka dear, where have you been? My mom asked. I was waiting for Izuku. He didn't show up, I said whilst crying. I then looked over at my parents only to see Izuku's mom sitting with them. Auntie Inko, why are you here? I asked confused, but she didn't answer. She only cried. Where's Izu? My parents both looked down at the ground as I asked, where's Izu? I desperately asked whilst tears shot out of my eyes for a totally different reason. Kyoka dear, I'm sorry, my mum said as I just backed up with my hand in front of me. No. I ran upstairs and shut my door before screaming into my pillow. Izu, why? What happened? I stayed in my room for a couple of hours before heading back down. What happened? I asked after I calmed down. They didn't find his body. There was just a pile of blood. And suicide note. My once calm face just dropped and my tears started again. No, he wouldn't, I said trying to hold back my tears. Auntie Inko walked over to me and handed me the note. Here, he wrote something for you, she said, whilst crying. I shakily grabbed it but couldn't bring myself to look at it. Thank you, I said. Take your time, Kyoka. Nobody is expecting you to get over this anytime soon, my dad said. I just nodded and walked upstairs, note in hand. I closed my door when I got in and picked up my phone. I had put it in charge and I just started scrolling through my gallery. I stared at pictures of us together at school, hanging out at each other's houses, at the mall, at the beach, and so much more. In every one of those pictures he was smiling, but the last time I saw him he wasn't smiling. I only wish that I could see his smile again in person. I put my phone down and picked up the note and read my part. Dear Kyoka, I'm sorry. I know I promised to meet you at the beach, but I couldn't make it. I wanted to thank you for being my friend. My only friend, even though I was quirkless, and don't let me be your last friend. You helped me through so much and believed in me and my dreams. I tried to stay for you, but I couldn't. I couldn't take it anymore after what he said to me. What both of them said to me. I just want to let you know one thing though. I love you. Please don't give up on your dreams because of me. Do your best. My tears started again. He loved me. He actually loved me. If I had told him how I felt, then maybe he'd be alive. I'm so sorry, Izu. I love you too. I put the note down on my desk and let out all of my tears. Izuku's death hurt me drastically. It hurt me so much that I occasionally even cut myself, but I was able to keep it from everyone. For the next month I didn't even go to school. I just went to the beach and trained for UA until my teachers forced my parents to bring me to school. The reason I didn't want to go wasn't because I didn't like school. Even though I didn't like it, Izuku was the only thing which made it tolerable. The reason I didn't want to go was because of him, Bakubich. After a lot of convincing, I reluctantly went back to school. The only reason I agreed was because I needed to pass a written exam to get into UA. Once I arrived at the school, I entered the classroom. Not many people were there as I was early, but he was. Oi ears, looks like your little boyfriend bit the bullet. Now you've got no one. You should have stayed away from the damn nerd. He was pathetic and only dragged you down with him. That was when I snapped. I grabbed him by his collar and punched him in the face. The fuck you say, Bakubich? I didn't quite hear you. I shoved his head into the desk we were next to multiple times before kicking him in the stomach and walking away with tears in my eyes. I sat down at my seat as everyone who was in the room stared at me. I didn't care about it. The only thing I cared about was Izuku. From that day on, Bakubich never said anything to me in fear of getting beat up again. I then spent the next 9 months studying and training for the UA entrance exam. I rarely spoke to anyone ever. Even my teacher knew better than to try and talk to me, as I just ignored everyone. I only spoke to my parents and Auntie Inko occasionally. When I wasn't at school or the beach, I was either sleeping, eating, or visiting Izuku. Since Izuku's body was never found, he couldn't actually be buried, which infuriated me. I would spend hours trying to find who stole his body and why. If he was dead, then what use could they have of him? He didn't even have a quirk. Even so, he was given a grave site. Not that many people actually visited. My parents would visit maybe once a week depending on how busy they were. Auntie Inko was always quite busy, but would visit a couple of times a week, and I was the only other person who would visit. I visited him every day and would spend hours with him. I would sit down by the grave and tell him about my day, ask him random stupid questions, and eat food with him. I would typically bring him katsudon as it was always his favorite. I cleaned his grave every day and brought flowers to him. Izuku looked up to one man, and that one man was the cause of his death. From the day I found out about Izuku's death, I went from admiring him to hating him. All Might, the symbol of peace, killed Izuku. He was no longer a hero to me, as I knew the truth. He doesn't really care about other people. Time skipped 9 months. I woke up early this morning as I was actually excited about something for the first time in 10 months. The UA entrance exam. I got up and had breakfast with my parents. As usual, I wasn't even smiling. They knew why though, so never questioned it and accepted it. The one thing in my life that actually made me happy was stripped away from me because of the #1 hero. I grabbed my stuff and headed off to UA by train. Once I arrived, I stood at the gates and stared up. I reached into my pocket and grabbed a piece of paper. It was the note from Izuku before he killed himself. I carried it with me everywhere I went to remind myself as to why I want to become a hero. To protect people not just from villains, but from what took Izuku away from me. I held back my tears after I reread my section of it and walked towards the auditorium where we would be told how the test would work. We would do our written test, and then a practical test where we would destroy robots to score points, and the top students would pass the exam. I was feeling confident about both exams as Izuku had helped me study loads before everything happened, as well as teaching me special revision methods, and I trained hard for the practical. I did the written exam and it was pretty easy for me, and I finished it in about 40 minutes. Once we were let out of the exam hall, I went to one of the changing rooms and got into my sports clothes before heading to the exam area. There were a few dozen people waiting there already, and some of them even had special support gear. Then this guy tapped me on the shoulder. "Hey, I'm Denki Kaminari. Nice to meet you," he said as I turned around. "Jiro," I said before turning away from him. "Whoa, you could be a little nicer, you know. Maybe throw in a smile too," he said with an annoying grin on his face. "Bring back the one thing that made me happy and I might smile again," I said, still not looking at him. "Huh, and what's that?" he asked. "My best friend," I said before walking away. I waited away from other people so that I wouldn't have to talk to anyone before the exam began, and then Present Mick told us to start. I ran through the fake city, plugging my jacks into as many robots as possible, sending sound waves through them to destroy them and rack up points. I was keeping track of how many points I gained as I went through, and with only 1 minute left I had 54 points. Well, I think that I should have enough points to pass. I can't hurt to get a few more though. I ran around the city looking for any robots that are still functioning that I can destroy when I saw him. The guy who talked to me earlier was surrounded by robots, and I ran towards him, but he sent an electrical discharge all around him, destroying most robots. He turned into a stupefied state as the last robot charged at him. I rushed over to him and destroyed the last robot. President Mick told us that the exam was over and that we should head out. I looked at Kaminari and sighed before walking off. I ain't dealing with him, I said as I walked off. I got changed and went home. My parents asked how it went and I told them about all of it except for Kaminari as I didn't really care. I went to my room and rested my body as I was exhausted from the exam. I closed my eyes and thought about Izuku. Izu, why did you have to leave me? I miss you so much. Please come back to me. A week later my results letter came from UA and I grabbed it before going to my room. I pulled out Izuku's note and put it alongside my letter from UA. I stared at Izuku's note and then opened up my letter. A hologram came out of it and what was on the screen angered me. Boom. I am here as a projector now, All Might screamed. What the hell is he doing on this? It is from UA, right? All Might then explained that he was now a part of the UA faculty and told me that I passed the exam, earning myself a spot at UA. I wanted to be excited that I got into mine and Izuku's dream school, but it was clouded by my anger for All Might. I almost wanted to turn them down, but I had to go for Izuku. UA had placed a dorm system for all of its students, so I had to pack up all of my stuff so that I could move in over the weekend. I packed up basically my entire room, which mainly consisted of my instruments and music posters. I also made sure to pack up all of my photos with Izuku. They were basically all that I had left to remind me of our happy times together. Once all of my stuff was packed up, I had it sent to UA, and then waited till the next day before I went there myself. I had a bag with me which I brought that had small items that I would just carry there myself. It's where my framed pictures of Izuku were along with my laptop, iPad and various other items. I arrived at the UA dorms at around GAM on Saturday, as that was when we were told to arrive. When I got there I saw about a dozen or so people already standing outside of the dorm rooms for Class 1A, and I saw someone I hoped I wouldn't see again, Bakubich. But I also saw the annoying idiot. Hey, looks like we both made it. Good to see you again, Kaminari said while smiling. Hey, I replied coldly. His smile is almost as bright as Izu's, but is far more annoying. Come on, no need to be so cold. We're classmates now, so let's be friends, he said as he extended out his hand. I just stared at his hand as I remembered the time when I held my hand out to Izuku when we became friends. I shook my head to shake the thoughts out of my head so that I wouldn't start crying in front of everyone and walked past him. Sorry, it's nothing personal, I whispered as I walked past him. A few seconds later a man wrapped in a sleeping bag showed up from behind the bushes and introduced himself. Hello, my name is Shoto Aizawa. I'm your homeroom teacher. Now let's head in. This is where you'll be living while studying here at UA. Be respectful to your classmates and don't cause any trouble. Your dorm assignments are here and your stuff has already been put there, you just need to unpack it. I'll be back later to explain everything else. With that I quickly made my way upstairs to my room so that I could start unpacking before people start talking to me. I unpacked everything, placing my instruments in the back of my room and all of my photos of me and Izuku together on my desk. Once I finished I heard quite a few people gathering downstairs, but decided to stay in my room. I pulled out Izuku's note and placed it on my desk as I started to listen to some music whilst laying down on my bed. Then a little while later I heard a knock on my door. I got up and walked over to my door and opened it to see a pink-skinned girl smiling at me. Why does everyone have to be smiling like him? It hurts. Hey, your name is Jiro, right? I'm Mina. Why don't you come down? We're all getting to know each other. We are classmates for the next 3 years, so might as well get to know each other now, she said with a bright smile. Sorry, I don't do friends, I said before turning around and laying back on my bed. Mina then walked into my room and looked around. Whoa, so you like music, huh? She asked as her eyes stopped on my desk. Yep, I replied, hoping she would just leave. If you don't do friends, then who's he? She asked, picking up one of my photos with Izuku. He was my best friend, I said while standing up and snatching my photo back and putting it back on my desk. Oh, wait, what happened? She asked. I don't like to talk about it, I said whilst returning to my bed. I'm assuming you two didn't have a falling out or you wouldn't have his pictures all over your room. Did he? Leave me alone, please, I said, interrupting her. Okay, I'll tell them that you're tired. Oh, but Mr. Aizawa will be coming by later to explain how school will work, so do you want me to get you for that? She asked. Yeah, get me for that, I said whilst holding back my tears. She left right after that and I just slumped onto my bed and started crying. Izu, I don't know if I can do this without you. Please, just help me out. I was curled up on my bed crying, but calmed down and decided to use my quirk to listen in on those downstairs. Hey Mina, where's Jiro? I heard Kaminari ask. She's tired at the moment. She'll be down later when Mr. Aizawa comes down, though, Mina replied. She doesn't seem like she wants to be friends with any of us, I heard a boy's voice say. Come on, Shinso. I'm sure she does want to be friends. Kaminari was then interrupted by a familiar voice. She doesn't want to be friends with any of you idiots, I heard Bakubich say. Huh. How would you know? Someone else said. Because I knew her before you, idiot. Why is he helping me? Why isn't he shouting? Did something happen? Kaminari asked. Please don't tell them, please, Bakugo. That ain't for me to say. Now shut up, Bakubich replied. Oh, Mr. Aizawa is here. I'll go get Jiro, Mina said. I'll get her, Bakubich interrupted. I retracted my jacks from the floor and wiped my eyes so that nobody would be able to tell I was crying. Then a knock was at my door. Oh years, teacher is here. They asked me to come and get you, so let's go. I ain't waiting, Bakubich shouted. I opened the door and looked him in the eyes. Thank you for not telling them, I said, resulting in him having a confused look. My quirk, remember, I walked past him with an emotionless look on my face as always and stood far behind everyone else as Mr. Aizawa explained how classes would work as well as living at the dorms. Once he finished he left and I was heading back upstairs when something fell out of my pocket. Hey Jiro, this fell out of your pocket, Kaminari said as he held a piece of paper. It was Izuku's note. He was opening it up to see what it was, but I didn't want anybody to know, so I grabbed the note and pushed him back slightly to make sure he let go. Everyone was staring at me, but I ignored them and went back to my room. I placed the note on my desk and laid down on my bed and went to sleep even though it was only 6 p.m. Chapter 3 After the Fall. Midoriya's POV. After I fell I heard a thud, but I was still conscious. I couldn't move at all. All I could do was watch as I bled out. Well, at least it's the same outcome. I was hoping that it would end quickly, but it felt like forever when I saw some metal boots stop right by my face. Well kid, you don't look so good. I can help you. Do you want me to? He said as he leant down into my eyesight. I couldn't move but wanted to tell him to end me now, but instead he wrapped me up and took me somewhere. There were voices but they were muffled. I could start to move again and wriggled around a little bit. If you want me to save him then he needs to stop moving, I heard a woman's voice say. Leave that to me. I saw the man walk over to me and put his finger on one of my wounds and then consume a little bit of my blood. I suddenly couldn't move again. It wasn't like the last time. This time it was like I was paralyzed. Then I felt a pain in all of my wounds as my body started to get heavier. Well, he'll survive. What do you want with him anyway? The woman asked. I watched an interaction occur with him in All Might. I think he will follow my ideals, and he is too young to be taken out of this world, the man said. I faded out of consciousness and closed my eyes. Woke up with a raging headache, but I had no pain from my wounds. I sat up and looked around to see nothing but the bed I was sleeping on, a light and a closed door. I stood up and walked over to the door and tried to open it, but it was locked. Hey, let me out, I screamed, not knowing what I was expecting. Then I heard keys on the other side of the door. I backed up from the door and saw a man with blades all over his body and a blood-red scarf come through the door. So, you're finally awake. Sorry for the terrible service. I don't exactly have access to 5-star rooms, he said. Who are you? I asked whilst keeping my distance. Oh, I go by Stain, he said. TH Hero K-Key Killer? I asked, scared for my life. I am known by that name as well. Why am I here? I asked. Well, because I saved your life and this was the best place to let you recover. Why did you save me though? I didn't want you to. You were too young to die. You shouldn't have to die because of a false hero. False hero? What are you talking about? I found All Might and followed him as I considered him one of the only true heroes. I heard what you asked in his response. He crushed your dreams and drove you to this. He is no longer a true hero. How long have I been here for? 3 months. WHAT. I have to go. I need to see my friend. I tried to leave, but he put his arm in the way to stop me. You are presumed dead. You can't go out in public anymore. Why? What are you planning on having me do? I want you to join me. Help me destroy the false hero society. The one which drove you to your actions. He held out his hand wanting me to join, but I wasn't sure. On one condition, I said. What is it? Take me to see Kyoka. I just want to see her. Sure kid. Let's go. He took me out of the room and told me to wait whilst he got changed so that he wouldn't be recognized. He handed me a hoodie and told me to wear the hood up so my face was covered as we walked outside. We got into a car and I told him where she lived and he started driving towards her house. We took the road by the beach and I started staring at the ocean, remembering all the times I spent with Kyoka on the beach. As I was looking though, I saw something which put a smile on my face. Stop the car. What? Why? Just stop the car. Please. He pulled over and I raced out of it towards the railings by the beach. I looked over in the distance and saw a girl training on the beach. She had purple hair and earphone jacks coming from her ears. Who's that? Stain asked as he looked over to where I was looking. It's Kyoka. She's right there. I started walking in her direction when a hand was placed on my shoulder. You can't. I'm sorry. I know. It's just that she's right there, I said while starting to cry. Kid, look. I understand that she means a lot, but you can't go to her. Instead, work with me so that she doesn't become a victim of this false hero society like you did. I watched Kyoka as she stopped training and sat down. I looked closer to see that she was holding a piece of paper whilst crying. I wanted so desperately to go over to her and hug her, but I knew I couldn't. All I could do was protect her from the shadows. Train me, please. I need to protect her. Good choice, kid. Let's go. There's a lot to learn. I returned with Stain to the facility I was held in earlier, and he gave me a change of clothes. He told me to wear them as they would be more comfortable to train in. I went to my room and took off my bloody clothes. I looked over my body to see multiple large scars all over my body. My right eye was also damaged in the fall, causing it to go from green to red. I guess I got these from the fall. They'll be a good reminder of what this faulty society can do. I put on my new clothes and met up with Stain. Alright, kid. Firstly, I should introduce you to Dr. Haruno. She is the one who saved your life, Stain explained whilst gesturing to a woman with short pink hair. Thank you, I said. No problem. I was just doing my job. Stain then led me to a training room. There were racks on the walls filled with weapons. There were daggers, sword, staffs, and many other weapons I had never seen before. Alright, kid. We're gonna start with hand-to-hand combat training. Once you're good enough at that, we'll move on to weapons. Okay, let's just get started. For the next 7 months, I spent almost all of my time training with Stain to prepare myself for our mission. After 2 months, I was already proficient in hand-to-hand combat and moved on to weapons. I mastered the katana, daggers, throwing knives, bow staff, and even a bow in the remaining months. Every now and then Stain would let me go out to see Kyoka and I would just watch from afar. She was always either sleeping, at school, training, or at my grave. I noticed that she would spend hours there, which broke my heart. She was wasting her life all because of me. I was happy that she was still trying to get into UA and follow our dreams of being heroes. Even Stain claimed that she may become a true hero, which made me happy. I would never forgive myself if she was brought down by the false heroes. It was around the time of the UA entrance exam when Stain made a request of me. Kid, you've done well. You're almost as good as me now and in such a short time. So I need you to do something to help us both. I want you to infiltrate the League of Villains. Stain asked of me. How come? I thought we were going after the false heroes, I questioned. I don't trust them. They don't follow our ideals. Want you to use them to help you kill as many false heroes as you can and then take out the League when they become a problem, he explained. Very well. But I haven't actually killed anyone before. Are you sure I can do it? I asked. Don't worry, we're about to find out. I've brought a false hero here for you to kill. I hesitated to follow him at first but quickly caught up. I grabbed my sword as he requested and followed him into another room where I saw a hero known as Native. This is a false hero. You're going to kill him, he said. Right, I responded. Please, you don't have to do this, Native begged. Sorry, but you're an infection to this society. You must be culled. I raised my sword high and shoved it into his chest. I could see the pain on his face as the light left his eyes. I thought I would feel horrible for killing someone. It wasn't really who I was, but instead I felt happy. I was protecting this world from the fakes. Blood splattered over my face as grin emerged from the sensation. I licked the blood off of my face as I pulled my sword out of his chest. With that done, Stain showed me my costume to wear whilst out there. I had a similar design to Stain, spiked boots, red scarf. I masked, but I also had a hood that I would put up when around anyone who may recognize me through my hair. I also had more weapons than Stain. I had a katana on my back with a bow staff right next to it, 6 daggers on the side of my chest, retractable blades from my forearms, throwing knives in small pockets on my legs, a foldable bow on my left leg and a quiver on my right leg. Once I was all set up, I left the facility I was training in and went out to find the League of Villains. I was wandering around the alleyways of an area near Camino Ward when I spotted a hero. I decided to watch him before deciding whether or not to kill him. Whilst everyone was around, he was signing autographs and trying to show off, and one thought came to my mind. He's a fake hero looking for attention. I dropped my search for the League and followed this hero until he was on top of a rooftop where I watched from the shadows. Ugh, Keeping up appearances is exhausting, he said to himself. Then maybe you shouldn't be a part of this false society, I said, causing him to look around frantically. I walked out of the shadows with my hood up and head down while slowly walking towards him. Huh, you're a kid. Do you want an autograph or something? He asked. Something, I responded before pulling my sword off of my back. Wait, hold on a second, kid. You don't want to do that. You'll be in prison for a long time if you kill a hero, he said, trying to stop me from killing him. I don't see any true heroes around here, so it'll be fine, I said whilst leaping towards him. I slashed his chest, causing him to kneel down from the pain. He was bleeding out. You're an infection to this society. You must be cold, I said as I raised my sword. Are you one of Stain's followers? He asked, struggling to breathe. No, I'm his student, I said as I shoved my sword through his heart. I pulled it out and watched his body drop to the floor with a grin. I looked around, and no heroes were near me, and knew that his body wouldn't be found for quite some time. I jumped down off of the roof into the alleyway, and continued my search for the League of Villains whilst cleaning my blade of the blood with my tongue. It was the middle of the night, and I hadn't seen any sign of them. I knew they would be careful not to be found, but I didn't expect them to be this good. Then I found something. I snuck into an illegal bar where criminals hang out and tried looking there for them. I sat at the bar and a man sat next to me. If you haven't ordered a drink yet, then you're here for something else. Maybe I can help, he said, catching my interest. I'm looking for some people. They go by the League of Villains, I said, hoping to get some information. Wait, you're just a kid. I don't think you should be getting into this, he said. I looked into his eyes with an emotionless face. Where are they? I demanded. Why do you want to know? He asked. I want to join them. What makes you think a kid could help them? Do you even have any skills? He asked. Dunno, you could ask the hero that I killed on my way here, I said, breaking eye contact. Very well then, I'll take you to them. But the leader may not be eager to let a kid join them. I then stood up. Let's go then, I said whilst walking away. We were walking for about 30 minutes before entering an abandoned building. We went upstairs through a door to reveal a secret bar there. Giran, who is this kid? A man with a hand on his face asked. He wants to join you. He isn't just some kid though. He has killed heroes before. Really, kid? So why join? He asked whilst looking me in the eyes. To destroy this society of false heroes. To kill All Might for what he did to me along with any other false heroes, I said. Very well then, kid. I'll give you a shot. What's your quirk? I need to know so I know how to use you, he asked. Which one? I asked. You have multiple quirks? He asked, shocked. I don't have one, I said. And you think you can join just like that? He said, sounding pissed. You said you'd give me a shot, I said. Fine, but if you don't do well, I'll kill you myself. Good luck with that. Even I can't kill me, I said whilst walking to the back of the room and sitting down. Giran left after receiving a payment for bringing me to them, and a man whose face and hands were a purple mist came in through a portal. Who's the kid? The mist guy asked. New recruit. And he's quirkless, the handy guy said. Well, this should be interesting. I'm Kurogiri, nice to meet you. Hey, I responded. And I'm Tomura Shigaraki. Tell us your name. Now, he insisted. I don't have a name, I said, still not moving a muscle. How come? Kurogiri asked. Because I died 10 months ago, I responded. Well, you'll need a name to go by when you're out there. How about Blade? Very well then, Blade. Welcome to the League of Villains. Our first attack on the heroes will be in a few days. I just need to grab some information first, Shigaraki explained. Alright, I said as I sat down in the corner. This is it. I can finally use them to kill all of the false heroes and All Might. Chapter for a friend. Jirou's POV. The first day of classes began. I hadn't really spoken to anyone though they tried. But Kubich did keep them away every now and then, which confused me. I didn't know why he was helping me be alone, but I was actually grateful. I went to class before anyone else so that I wouldn't have to walk with anyone, and so that I would get my choice for a seat. I sat down in the back corner of the room and stared out of the window to my left. Not too long later, everyone else arrived and took their seats. Mr. Aizawa was late to class, which annoyed me as it gave everyone else the opportunity to try and speak to me. I just kept staring out the window. From this view, I could see Izuku's favorite coffee shop. We would go there at least once a week, not to order coffee, but just to sit down and chat. Once Mr. Aizawa arrived, he gave us some gym uniforms and asked us to put them on and head down to the training grounds. In the changing room, I got changed pretty quickly so that the other girls wouldn't notice my scars from cutting myself, but they noticed. Hey Jirou, what are those scars on your arms? Mina asked. I put on my gym top and walked away. None of your business, I said as I left. I went to the training ground and waited for everyone else to start the training. We were doing a quirk assessment test, but for me it was just a physical ability test as my quirk was useless for all of the tests. Did my best in all of the tests and got really good scores, thanks to all of my training, placing myself in 7th place in the class. Mr. Aizawa then told us to head back to class where we had normal lessons for the rest of the day. Although most of them were just our teachers explaining what we would be doing this semester and introducing the topics. After classes finished, we went back to the dorms. I rushed up to my room as soon as I could and shut the door closed quickly. I released a breath I didn't know I was holding and sat on my bed. Izu, I can't do this without you. I can't. I need you. Please help me. My eyes laid themselves on a blade on my desk and I grabbed it. No, I shouldn't. Izu wouldn't want this, but I can't help it. I need you here with me. I gripped the blade tight as I took off my jacket. My scars from the previous times I cut myself were right there, and I hesitated. I didn't want to cut myself again, but I couldn't stop myself. I brought the blade up to my arm and started cutting. Blood came running down my arm more than usual. I threw the blade away to stop myself from doing anything else and curled up on the floor leaning against my bed whilst crying. When I saw the blood, I couldn't help but picture Izuku's lifeless body laying down on the ground in a pool of his own blood. My breathing started to quicken and I couldn't think straight. Izu, I'm sorry. Please, I need you. Just come back to me, please. Hey Jiro, you alright? I heard something. Are you okay? Mina asked as she saw me curled up on the floor crying and bleeding. I'll leave. Me. All alone, I said in between sobs. Nope, not going to happen. You're hurt and crying. I'm telling Mr. Aizawa right now. Please don't, I begged as she was about to leave my room. Why? Tell me exactly what happened and I'll decide from there, she said with a strict tone and crossing her arms. Oh, okay. I stood up whilst covering my cut and picked up a picture of Izuku. This is Izuku. I called him Izu. He was my best friend, but he died. I couldn't deal with it. It broke me. I loved him. He wanted to be a hero same as me, but obviously can't anymore. I walked over to the edge of my room and picked up the blade with my blood on it. I started cutting myself to deal with the pain. Please take it away. I don't want to do it. I just can't stop. Mina took the blade away from me. How did he die? She asked whilst crying. He jumped off of a building. Mina just gasped at what I said. Why? Because nobody seems to care about those who are quirkless. I was his only friend. He was my only friend. He was quirkless. That's why he jumped. Partly, the other reason is because of All Might, I said. All Might? What's he got to do with it? What do you think happens when the person you admire more than anyone in the world tells you that you can't become a hero? Oh, now leave me alone and don't tell anyone. I pushed her out of my room and slammed the door closed behind her. I crawled back to my spot on the ground and resumed to cry. I came down only for dinner, and the entire time Mina was giving me worried glances. I had put some bandages over my cut after cleaning it and put on a long sleeve top so that nobody would see it. After eating, I went straight back upstairs ignoring everyone. Then Mr. Aizawa showed up at my door 1 hour later. Jiro, can I talk to you please? He asked from the other side of the door. I stood up and opened the door letting him in. Sure, is something wrong? I asked. I was about to ask you the same thing. Ishido came to speak to me. She seemed worried about you. What did she tell you? I asked, concerned that she actually told him about what happened. She didn't tell me anything. She said that you didn't want her to tell anyone, but could still tell me that there was something wrong with you. I looked over at my pictures with Izuku and started to cry. If you tell me what's wrong, I can help. I won't tell anyone, I promise. Just let me help you. If you want to be a hero, you need to be stable. Fine, I handed him Izuku's note and curled back up on my bed. What's this? A suicide note, I said, causing him to look at me with a shocked expression. It's not mine. It was written by him. I pointed over at my photos with Izuku. Mr. Aizawa started to read the note and just stared at me afterwards. All Might drove him to this. I just nodded as I tried to calm myself down. So this is the reason for you being closed off? Why yes, he was my only friend and that happened to him. I don't want any other friend besides him, I said. You will need to make friends eventually. I've been fine for the past 10 months. I'm sure I can last another 3 years with all of them, I said while sighing. I'm not asking you to make friends with everyone. Just make one. I can't. I'm sorry. I need him here. I can't do anything without him. He always supported me and now I have nobody but my family. You're wrong. You have me and your classmates. I'm sure not all of them will be the perfect friend like Izuku seemed to be to you, but I think that you should give one of them a shot. Ishido seems worried about you. Why not try making friends with her? Okay, I'll try. Alright. If you ever want to talk, come and see me, alright? The next day I started waking to class early again so that nobody would try to talk to me, but I was still debating whether or not I should try to be friends with Mina. She was nice and actually cared about me. She went out of her way to help me without betraying my trust. I sat down at my desk and before anyone else had arrived, Mr. Aizawa showed up early. Did you talk to her? He asked. Not yet. I think I'll try to later though, I responded. Good. A few minutes later the rest of the class arrived and Mr. Aizawa left immediately. We were all confused, but a minute later someone else came in. I am here. Coming through the door like a hero, huh? Is that what you are? I avoided eye contact with him as he told us that he would teach us this lesson today. The lesson was hero basic training. We all grabbed our newly made hero costumes and headed out to training ground beta. My costume consisted of a black jacket with a pink top, black bottoms with boots that have speakers on them, and white fingerless gloves. I also wore a necklace Izuku had bought for me. He apparently wanted to give it to me when we became heroes. I wanted to wear it every day, but I decided I would only ever wear it if I became a hero. Inside the locket on it was a picture of the two of us. Even though I never wore it, I would occasionally hold it close to my chest to make myself feel closer to him. Once at the training ground, he explained how the matches would work. We would be in pairs with one of the pairs being villains and the other playing the heroes. We would have to fight each other. The villains win by either capturing the heroes or waiting out the time. The heroes win by either capturing the villains or touching the weapon the villains are protecting. We drew lots to be paired up and I was paired up with Mina. She was happy whilst I just stuck with my emotionless face. All the teams went against each other until it was my and Mina's turn against Kaminari and Shinso. Mina knew that I didn't want to talk so didn't try, but just smiled at me occasionally. We walked into the building, and I stopped to put my jacks into the wall and find out where the two of them were. 5th floor, back left. That's where they are, I said coldly. Alright, nice work. Now let's sneak up on them. Okay, I walked behind Mina as we went upstairs. She skipped her way over to the room they were in whilst I just dragged my feet along. So, I know you don't want to talk, but are you okay? She asked. Yeah, I'm fine. Could you? Never mind, I responded. Huh? They're right there, I interrupted whilst pointing to a door. Okay, I'll go in first. You follow, okay? Okay, Mina snuck over to the door whilst I followed behind her. She turned the corner and sprayed acid all over the place before backing out of the room. I turned the corner right after and launched sound attacks throughout the room with the speakers on my boots not letting Shinso move. But I couldn't see Kaminari. I was then electrocuted when someone grabbed my shoulder. However, this didn't stop my attacks but amplified it. My quirk gets stronger the greater my heart rate, and getting electrocuted definitely increases my heart rate. Mina rushed in and sent acid towards Kaminari, making him back off. I bent down onto one knee whilst heavily breathing from the shock. Mina then elegantly dodged Kaminari's punches and touched the weapon, declaring us the winners. She ran over to me and helped me up and walked me out of the building back to the observation room. I sat down on one of the chairs as my legs felt weak. All Might walked over to me and told me to go see Recovery Girl, but I just ignored him. I wasn't going to listen to a thing he said to me. He didn't deserve it. Once all of the matches were over, we were told that we could get changed and head back to the dorms, but All Might asked to speak to me. I wanted to walk away, but I was curious as to whether he would apologize for ruining Izuku's and my life. Not that I would forgive him. Young Jiro, is there something wrong? He asked me, to which I scoffed. Obviously. You don't remember me, do you? No, why would you? You just show up, save our lives, ruin our lives, leave and forget about us, I said with pure hatred. I'm afraid I don't understand. I took off my necklace and removed the picture of me and Izuku from it before showing it to him. Do you remember him? He wanted to be a hero, just like you, even though he was quirkless. That was until you told him that he could never be a hero, I told him whilst holding back my tears. What do you mean was quirkless? He asked. Really? You don't know what you did to him? You broke him, I said whilst crying. I don't follow. I grabbed Izuku's note out of my pocket and shoved it onto All Might before walking away. I want that back by the end of the day, I said before going through the door. Izuku had written 3 messages on the note. One for his mum, one for me, and the other for All Might. I never expected him to ever read it, but I gave it to him because Izuku wrote it for him, and he wanted him to read it and I couldn't refuse. Izuku. I walked to the changing rooms and got changed before heading back to the dorms and into my room. Damn it, Izu, I need some help. Please. You know what? I'm coming to you. I walked out of the dorms without looking at anyone and headed straight to the teacher's dorms, but someone decided to follow me. Hey girl, what ya doing? Mina asked. I'm heading out. I need a teacher's permission first. Cool. Where are you going? Somewhere personal, I said. Oh right, well do you want some company? I always go alone, I said whilst speeding up. Once I got to the teacher's dorms, I found Mr. Aizawa heading out. Sir, can I head out? It's personal, I asked whilst Mina stood behind me. Sure, is Ashido going too? No, she just followed me here, I said as I left to go where I needed to go. A half an hour walk later, I arrived at where I needed to go. The cemetery. Once I arrived, I went straight to Izuku's grave and sat down whilst crying. Hey Izu, sorry I haven't been here the last couple of days. I got into UA, and they have dorms which the students stay in, which makes it difficult to come and visit you. I'm sorry, but I couldn't get any katsudon on my way here, so I guess you'll have to go hungry today. I haven't gotten anything to eat either, so I guess we're even. I've been doing well in school and most of my class wants to make friends with me, but I can't. I know you'd want me to make friends with some people, but they aren't you. I don't know what to do. I can't think straight. All Might is a teacher at UA now, and he doesn't even remember us. He doesn't remember what he did to you. I broke down and let my tears flow. Are you okay, Jiro? Mina asked. I looked up at her standing right next to me. She sat down next to me and looked at the grave. Izuku Midoriya. Is that the guy from your photos? I just nodded, knowing that I couldn't hide it from her now. You said that he was your best friend, but it seems like he was more. I loved him, I said whilst crying. Mina put her arm around my shoulders and tried to help me. Did you ever get to tell him? She asked. I tell him every day when I come here. I only found out that he loved me from his note. What note? She asked, confused. His suicide note, I told her. Oh, I'm so sorry. Do you want me to leave you alone? Mina asked while standing up. No, he would want me to have a friend. And you are like him in some ways. In what ways? You are almost as caring as he was. Almost. Sounds like the perfect guy, she said whilst nudging my shoulder. She was teasing me. We giggled a little together before I spoke up. Yeah, he was. Sometimes I get this feeling that he is watching me from afar, but that's just wishful thinking. I know he died, but I just want him back. I know that I never met him, but I'm sure that he would just want you to be happy. He would. He wrote it in his note. He also didn't want me to give up on my dreams of becoming a hero, but it's just too hard without him. Listen, I know you might not want to hear it, but you can't let his death drag you down. You will need to move on at some point. I know, but we promise never to leave each other. I know he technically left me, but I won't give up on him. I owe him too much. He always helped me, paid for everything when we went out, and I couldn't help him except for one time. He refused to let me pay for things even though I had plenty of money and he was struggling for it. Well, what was the one time you helped him? She asked. I could tell that she was having me talk about it to help me, and I was happy she was. It was the first time we met. He was on the playground protecting a kid from some bullies. He got beat down and the guy he protected ran away without helping him. I decided to go over to see if he was okay and helped him up, and then we became friends. Oh, that was sweet. See, you were a kind person. You were a hero when you took his hand. You can do this, and you're not by yourself. You have me and all of our class. Can it just be you for now? I asked with pleading eyes. Sure, just the two of us. Are you going to hang out downstairs or your room? My room? Alright, I'll leave you to love birds alone now. I'll see you back at the dorms. Thank you, Mina. I appreciate everything. No problem. Do you know how long you'll be? I don't want to get unnecessarily worried. I've been known to stay here for hours, so don't stay up for me. Okay, see you later, Jiro. I waved her goodbye and looked back at Izuku. I hadn't noticed, but whilst talking to Mina I had stopped crying and was smiling. I was smiling for the first time in about a year. I headed back to the dorms after spending another hour with him. Once I arrived, I went straight up to my room but glanced over at Mina. I got into my room and sat on my bed. Not a moment later, Mina came through my door. You okay? She asked. Yeah, I'm doing a lot better. Good. So want to do something? Sure, you play. I asked whilst looking over at my instruments. Nope, but I've always wanted to learn. Then let's teach you. I grabbed one of my guitars and handed it over to Mina before grabbing one for myself. We started strumming, and she would mess around with it, acting like she was a pro, causing us both to giggle. We played for hours, and per her request I played a few songs for her to which we both sang along to. I actually had fun with someone. I only ever had fun with Izuku, but now I had a friend. My first friend since Izuku died. We stayed up so late playing with my instruments that we both fell asleep in my room. Once we woke up, Mina headed over to her room to get changed. Once we were both changed, we met up outside the dorms and walked to class together. When everyone arrived, they were asking Mina how she got through to me, but refused to answer as she knew that I didn't want to talk to the others. Mr. Aizawa then came in and told us that we would be doing rescue training at a facility not too far from the main building. Everyone seemed to get excited, but I kept my emotionless face. Hearing the word rescue just reminded me of Izuku. If they train heroes to rescue people, then why didn't they rescue Izu? Was he not considered a person worthy of being saved? We got changed into our hero costumes and got onto a bus to head to the facility. I sat next to Mina at the back of the bus and leant my head against the window. She understood that I didn't want to talk and left me alone. We spent the night hanging out, but I still wasn't completely comfortable talking in front of everyone else. Eventually we arrived at the facility and went inside. Another hero was waiting for us inside the facility, the Space Hero 13. She explained how we would be conducting the rescue training, but something interrupted us. A purple portal opened up in the middle of the facility, and what looked like 100 people came through. They were villains. Most of the villains who I saw come through didn't look like they were that big of a deal, but there did seem like a few of them were a big deal. There was the purple mist guy, the one with hands all over his body, a giant monster with a bird head, and what looked like a kid with weapons covering his entire body. In a second, the purple mist guy appeared behind us and surrounded us in mist. The next thing I know, I was dropped into a mountain-like area. I looked around and noticed that I was still in the Yash. I was surrounded by villains when Mina and Kaminari were dropped next to me. We did what we could to fight them off, and Kaminari released his electricity everywhere whilst me and Mina hid behind a rock. He was left in a stupefied state whilst every villain was unconscious. We were about to grab Kaminari and leave when another purple portal appeared in front of us. Then the kid with weapons all over his body came through. Who are you? Mina asked whilst looking terrified. They call me Blade. That's all you need to know, as you will be dead in a second. He was looking down as though he didn't want to make eye contact with us. Has he killed before? He doesn't look like he wants to do it. Is it because we're kids? Are they forcing him to? He unsheathed his katana and finally looked up at us. His eyes were covered by a mask, but I could have sworn I recognized them. If I could have seen his hair, I might have recognized him, but he wasn't going to do as I say. He was a villain. I started to panic, wondering if this would be the end. I'm sorry, Izu. I may be joining you sooner than you would have hoped. So that is it for part 1 of this story, and like and comment for more what if story, and bye.